Of March 20th, 2010, regular school committee meeting. Mr. Vail will not be with us tonight, Trish, and Mr. Higgins, I'm sure, will be along. Soon. Okay, our first item, approval of items by consensus. Mrs. Benton.
Good evening, everyone. There are 3 items on the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes from March 10th regular session. Approval of out-of-state field trip to Louisville, Kentucky, the high school DECA team. And I just want to point out that this is not within the 60-day policy because this is a competition, and as they move forward, we move forward, and I'm thrilled to say that we are 5 students traveling to Kentucky to compete in the DECA International Career Development Conference, and our state champions will compete against other students across the United States, and we wish them well. And approval of the out-of-state field trip to Lake George for the strings group that goes
Thursday, May 27th.
Thursday, May 27th, and returns on
Friday.
May 28th.
Yeah, Friday, May 28th. Trip. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 10th, 2010 regular session, out-of-state field trip to Louisville, Kentucky, and out-of-state field trip to Lake George. Mr. Marchese.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular session meeting on March 10th, 2010, the out-of-state field trip to Louisville, Kentucky for the high school DECA team, and the out-of-state field trip to Lake George for the strings group.
Do you have a second? Oh, Dr. Quick, all those in favor? Unanimous, Trish. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I must have 2 of those. All right, our next item would be the superintendent's report, personnel.
And I actually have, I'm going to add 2 items to it. I just wanted to report that we had an unexpected resignation of a high school chemistry teacher effective March 5th. I'm pleased to say that we had a licensed, certified chemistry teacher begin today to replace him. We were fortunate. Mr. Tracy called every principal, I think, in the area to find a candidate, and we're thrilled to have someone on board.
Right.
Secondly, I'm pleased to announce that this evening the Wilmington High's boys basketball team is being honored for its sportsmanship during halftime at tonight's Celtics game against the Denver Nuggets at the TD Garden. The Celtics and MIAA will present the Wilmington boys with the Sportsmanship Alliance of Massachusetts Award. The Wildcats are being recognized for their role in celebrating the life of Tewksbury basketball player Megan McCarthy, who died January 19th at the age of 17 after a 3-year battle with an inoperable brain tumor. Wilmington gave up a home game to participate in a basketball doubleheader at Tewksbury honoring McCarthy a few days after her death, and the Wildcats wore pink armbands displaying Megan's number 24. I want to congratulate Coach Mayella and the Wildcat boys basketball team. They had a great season, finishing 12-8, but this surpasses all the wins they had on the court. I am very, very proud of what they did for reaching out to a community in need of comfort and support, and so we congratulate them, and hopefully we'll be able to see it around 8:15. It will be on TV. I wish them all luck as they boarded the buses at 4:30 with their shirts and ties, all looking dapper. They're getting a tour of the TD North and special seating for the game. I also like to congratulate Malden girls basketball team, who is also receiving the award. I want to also do kudos to the high school Wildcat project that took place last evening. This was a mandatory meeting for all students who are going to be attending either the junior or the senior prom and one of their parents. I believe there were over 800 people in the gymnasium last night, and to quote Mrs. Duffy, you could hear a pin drop. The program was very well put together. We had Cara Filler, who speaks around the country on the dangers of speeding. Car crashes, #1 killer of teenagers, and unfortunately, she lost her twin sister many years ago, who was the passenger in her boyfriend's car, and actually Kara was in the car behind it and actually saw the EMS pull her sister out, who was dead at the scene. She's quite an inspirational speaker. Her message to our students was, we're not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to encourage you to make the right decisions, and told the students about choices they could make around being in a situation when you're in a car with someone speeding and having the driver stop to get out of the car. We also had the Citric District Attorney Carrie Alman out of the Middlesex District Attorney's Office talk about the consequences of drinking and driving, or parents hosting parties with serving alcohol with underage teens. And lastly, we had representatives from the Woburn Court who have a mission entitled HEAT, which is to educate the public, especially parents, about the extent of heroin use and abuse among young people in the community. And she gave a very startling statistic last night that I was not even aware of, that Merrimack area has the third largest use of heroin in ages 17 to 20 in the United States, and that's pretty scary. So again, they offered tips to parents on being vigilant and noticing changes in students' behavior and making sure that their prescription pills, parents' prescription pills, are not in reach of students. So again, congratulations to Principal Eric Tracy and Assistant Principal Deb Deacon and Nurse Leader Doreen Crow for putting this together. It really was an amazing night, and I'm looking forward to Friday night junior prom at the Marriott in Burlington, and we hope to have a good evening.
I think it's great that it's so close also. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Benton. Right, old business, superintendent's evaluation. There we go. We had explained at the last meeting that due to a court case, the superintendent's evaluation is done a little differently. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to go through the 6 standards of the MASC standards for superintendent school committee. And I was thinking the fair way to do this is we'll start with standard A. I'll read the standard, and then we'll all comment on the standard. And we'll start with Mrs. Duffy for A, but as Miss O'Connell always says, when you get here, everything's been said. So I was thinking that what we'll do is Mrs. Duffy will start with A and we'll go around, and then Mr. Higgins with B and we'll go around, and Mr. Marchese with C and we'll go around, so that we'll all be either at the beginning or the end. I'll go last. Okay? So the first item on the evaluation for a superintendent is the relationship with the school committee. The school committee relies on the superintendent in order to make informed decisions that will affect the quality of education for the public school children in our community. In order to promote a climate of mutual respect and trust, a professional working relationship should be maintained. The superintendent should establish clear direction for the school committee meetings by providing agendas and support materials that allow for reasonable policy formation and informed decision-making. It is expected that the superintendent will support and implement school committee policies and directives and effectively communicate these to the students, staff, and members of the community. So, Mrs. Duffy, would you care to start?
Sure. On the first standard A, relationship with the school committee, I feel that the superintendent meets this standard, that we consistently get our packets. Subcommittees meet on a regular basis to look at policy. Any new law that is set forth, the policy subcommittee does meet, review multiple choices, and follows the procedure. So I feel that that standard is met.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, there is no spot that is lacking in any way of any sort. So she definitely meets the requirements.
Thank you. Mr. Marchese?
I can say that Superintendent Bennett, the relationship she's established with the school committee and with me personally over the last year that I've been here has been phenomenal. The lines of communications are always open. If there's a question, she's always there to answer it. She's never talked to me in a bad tone or anything like that. And, it's been a great relationship. And whenever I needed something, it's always there to find out. And I think she served the school committee very well over this past year. And I'm very pleased with her work. So I agree, she does meet the standard.
Thank you. Ms. O'Connell?
I'd just like to reiterate the first three comments, that I definitely feel that the superintendent meets the standard. I'd also like to address, just for the sake of the committee and for the public, my personal and professional experience is that situations that happen in the day-to-day that are outside of an agenda formatted meeting that we can publicly announce and have an open meeting law in effect, i.e., a student situation or a bus incident or whatever, there's timely communication that goes on behind the scenes that we may not have the option to have a school committee meeting per se to be briefed on an event that happens real time. And I do feel that the chain of command behind the scenes that the public doesn't necessarily see, whether it's with transportation, police, fire, with the administration staff, through the chair, it's timely communication so that we're never in a situation where we're out facing the public, that we're in an unknown situation. I can't think of an instance where something has occurred that we have not been briefed. It may not be real time because they're in the midst of responding to the situation, but we are immediately notified following, and we immediately get briefed on the safety and the status of the students and the faculty and staff and how the parents are being informed. So I feel that's important to mention as well in this evaluation.
Great, thank you. Dr. Quick?
At the end. I definitely agree with everything everybody has said. She at least for me, more than meets that standard. It's a very good working relationship, business-wise, professional-wise. We're always, every time if there's something going on, and it pretty much just reiterates what you're saying, it's always right there for us to be able to see and be made aware of. So she definitely meets that standard.
Thank you. And I would say as chair that I have never come to the superintendent with something that she has not already known about it and started working on it and is ready to give me an update on it, which was about to come to me. She's really on top of her school system. She treats us all with respect. I feel a real feeling of trust between the school committee and the superintendent. And as far as policy, she's a member on the policy subcommittee, and she certainly makes sure that policy is followed. If something happens, and she has already started to look into it, it's amazing. So I would say that, and she uses her leadership team to disseminate information about the policy, and policies go into effect after we voted them. They go into effect very quickly. So that's what I would have to say. She certainly exceeds the expectations in my eyes. Okay, educational leadership, and we'll have you start, Mr. Higgins, when I'm done. The focus of decisions must address the needs of all students. In order to provide effective leadership, the superintendent should keep abreast of the latest developments in the field of education. Curriculum evaluation and development, professional evaluation and development, and student assessment should be considered in the formulation of short and long-range goals and objectives. Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one. She definitely exceeds any expectation I could possibly have on educational leadership. MCAS results come in, and there's a plan of action with results. If there is any place that is lacking or isn't as up to the standard that the superintendent would like to see. And as far as professional development is concerned, Wilmington High School, the Wilmington Professional Day, Wilmington University, the teachers leading teachers, it's an exception to the rule, I would say. So she definitely, in my eyes, exceeds any expectations on educational leadership.
Great, thank you, Mr. Casey.
I echo Mr. Higgins' comments, and I'd just like to say, in the beginning of the year, she set out her goals for us. She told us what she wanted to do. We had a clear path of what we were going to attain this year. And you can also see it not just only what Mrs. Benton provides us, but also through the rest of our staff, through the administrators, through the principals, through the teachers, and all of their energy that they bring forward. And I know that comes from Mrs. Benton and her leadership. And when you see a whole team working together like that, you know it starts from the top. And I congratulate you on all your great work this year.
Ms. O'Connell.
Certainly, just to add to those items, I think the Wilmington University, as Steve said, is key. I also can appreciate the fact that there are instances where I call in to the superintendent and she may not be available, certainly gets back to me on the road or on location to where she's at, and it's usually at a professional development meeting or at the State House in Boston, or is out trying to be on the forefront, collaborating and cross-collaborating with other towns and communities, with other superintendents to try and be on the forefront of technology, finance. I can certainly appreciate from an educational leadership standpoint that Superintendent Bennett keeps in close contact with Charlie Lyons, who is with Shawshene Tech, so that basically, even though that's maybe outside of our purview, that she's keeping tabs on the latest and greatest of how all students in the town of Wilmington are being serviced, whether they're at Shawshene and potentially come over to Wilmington, vice versa, that there's a close collaboration, and I believe that that speaks to the total educational leadership for the town of Wilmington.
Thank you. Dr. Quick.
As far as educational leadership, she definitely meets the standards for this and exceeds them. I feel that she is always keeps us and has kept herself on top of all developments regarding education. She takes an approach of what else can we be doing? What more can we be doing? And I really appreciate that. And she definitely utilizes all the aspects of the evaluation and development student assessment in regards to her short and the long-term goals, which I appreciate. So she definitely meets that.
Thank you. And Mrs. Duffy.
I'd say that Superintendent Benton exceeds this standard. We have seen a great improvement and great strides in our database assessments for all of our buildings with the database warehousing and some of the movement from short and long-term goals to be more obtainable. Certainly that was her vision and her drive on that helped that come through. Professional development is always important to her, while she has brought speakers into the system and allowed other teachers to teach other teachers, which is a top evaluate professional development opportunity. So there are many areas where she exceeds this expectation.
Thank you. And when I was going through this section, I came upon so many reports that she has given us. Her curriculum, first of all, you note that the work on the educational side is all in 5-year cycles. And the 5-year cycles all stem out of the strategic plan, which was brought to us, and then with our approval, this is where everything goes. The curriculum review committees that she has set up, every year we're given 2 or 3 curriculum areas. Like this year we had the English language arts, and we had the health and phys ed came to us. She set for her staff, curriculum review committees, procedural tasks on how to go forward so that the result is really exactly what she's looking for as far as being helpful to the students. And I need to add that in every report that the superintendent gives us, the students are in that report, that this is for the students, which is really important. She's negotiated a teacher professional evaluation that's very unique and different, and it's going to allow the teachers to be a little more risk-taking, perhaps, to be able to work towards goals that are in a different manner. And I just wanted to show the public that this is the district-wide school improvement plan report that she's put together. Strategic and school improvement plans are in them. This is the professional development report that she has put together. This is the type of materials that she gives to us when we're trying to understand what's happening in the school system. And so we thank you very much for that, too. Okay, our next one is general management. The superintendent has the responsibility for the efficient operation of the school system. The response of those assigned the task of carrying out the activities necessary to the success of the system depend on having an awareness of the goals and objectives of the system. The superintendent is expected to provide the leadership to the school committee in the development of these goals and objectives. It is important that the superintendent is familiar with and has a strong understanding of state and federal laws, Department of Education regulations, and school committee policy. Mr. Marchese.
I believe the superintendent actually exceeds beyond my wildest dreams about general management. In my one-year tenure here so far, we've had 2 bomb scares, and the way she handled that and organized the police, the fire, NEMLAC, the town hall, and had all these meetings and organized and informed the parents, got the kids out of here, organized the buses, searched the schools, and get the schools up and running the next day, and make sure the priority of the kids, their safety was number one. It was phenomenal to see all that come together so quickly in an organized fashion, and that she had complete control over the whole situation. She kept us abreast of what was happening. You know, it was like minute-by-minute play, what was happening through emails and phone messages and all that. So it was absolutely phenomenal. In terms of the facilities here through the high school and all the other buildings, granted, our buildings are somewhat old, except the middle school, but these by far are the cleanest facilities I've ever seen. And I know she has a wonderful relationship with the town manager, so if there's anything needed through the building department, it's a simple phone call away. And because of that strong relationship that she does have with the town manager, she's able to make sure that our facilities are well maintained. And again, I really believe she does exceed this beyond my wildest dream. So,
Thank you. Ms. O'Connell.
Certainly, superintendent meets the standard. I don't have a significant amount of comments on this one particular area other than to say that meets and exceeds the standard. Certainly, I can appreciate what happens here, you know, in the Wilmington Public Schools, but I do want to say in terms of state and federal laws and the Department of Education regulations that Superintendent Bennett is ensuring the fact that Wilmington Public Schools is in line with the Massachusetts Department of Education from curriculum standards and strands of education, as well as if there's an issue for state or federal law clarification, she certainly will not hesitate to enlist the support of our legal team to get further clarification, or enlist the support of the chair of the school committee to work through the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. So I feel it's important to reiterate, aside from our policy subcommittee and our committee standards, that when we need to go abroad to employ the assistance of other educated personnel, she certainly does not hesitate to do that. And I think that's really important from a general management standpoint. If you don't know the answer to a question or you don't have the information, is to be able to go outside of yourself and your existing staff to say that I don't know the answer and I can be resourceful and find it and maintain, legal liability. I think that's important.
Thank you. Dr. Quick.
I'm sorry I laughed because you said I don't have many comments on this.
You have one more meeting and then I'm all done after one more meeting, so.
I couldn't help it.
You guys just have a
Smile on my
couple,
face.
I know. I didn't have any, but then once I got going. It's all good stuff, though. It's all good stuff.
I believe that this general management area is, she exceeds the standard in general management. Managerially, she really excels, providing the efficient operation for the school system, exactly what Ms. O'Connell was talking about, being right on top of things, leadership to the school committee, allowing us to do what we do best, making our job easier, and having that information at all times as to what's going on, laws, everything that we need to know. I believe that is a real strong point.
Good, thank you. Mrs. Duffy.
Under general manager, I believe the superintendent meets this standard. I think she's been very clear with the staff of where the lines of communication are. I feel we have a strong leadership team that she gives responsibility to, and then the leadership team then provides responsibility to the people that they know can do the job as well. So I think there's a lot of support support. And I think that along with that, all of this standard seems to be met.
Good, thank you. And I think I can just add one thing about the goal. Oh, Steve, I forgot. Sorry.
Raise your hand.
I'm not gonna, don't add what I'm adding. Mr. Higgins would like to add. Sorry, I have my own.
If you will.
I would love to hear what you have to say.
I would think the superintendent actually exceeds this, this bullet point as well. The one example I keep coming back to, it has to do with the budget process. I realize that's the next bullet that we need to go by, but the entire process is run so smooth and with so many revisions that only happens through strong leadership, through strong communication skills. And especially the past couple of years when we're faced with addition by subtraction, that's a nice way of saying you're getting less money. And to have, not only have the principals show up with these fantastic ideas because they've been empowered to come up with these ideas, but they're happy to do so. They're happy to expand what they're doing for less money. And that's, to me, that's the epitome of fantastic, great upper-level management.
Thank you. And I was so concerned about having something to say for myself. I apologize. And you didn't hit it. I just want to add that under Mrs. Benton's goals, that she says to improve, number one, to improve student learning in order that all students achieve at a high level. And I think that runs throughout her general management. She is consistently concerned with the students and what is happening to the students. And it shows in everything that she does. So, thank you. Our next one, financial business operations. The school committee has the responsibility of approving the budget, and the superintendent has the responsibility to present the budget to the school committee in a manner which promotes their full understanding. The budget should take into consideration the needs of the entire system based on a formal assessment process. The need to promote the school system and gather community support for school finances is an integral component of the budget process. Ms. O'Connell.
Well, I just want to say up front that this is a very loaded area to comment on, so if I could have a little time to speak. No, I'm just kidding. It's all for the superintendent, so I'm not, so, but I mean, you can't summarize this in one sentence, quite frankly. Basically, from a budgetary standpoint, I mean, it's a very unique place to live in Wilmington, to be able to have a K-12 experience where there's been no reduction in services. We have full staff personnel. We have a complete central office infrastructure. We have complete buy-in from every department or level of service in the town of Wilmington that truly, not just Superintendent Benton, but just overall has the children of Wilmington first at all times. And from the budgetary standpoint, it takes place at the school level. It goes to the leadership team. To Steve's point, it's revised. It's addition by subtraction. The list goes on. We have our own internal meetings. We go to the finance committee. There's custom presentations at every level. Joanne makes sure that all of her personnel is there, whether it's Paul for finance or Neil for technology or for Peter for professional development. Basically, there's something in that budget for everyone, whether it's the culture, the staff, services, athletics, bands, performing arts, adult education, could be making sure that we have full-day kindergarten. It's a complete K-12 experience on every level, whether you're employed here or you're a student here, whether you're an overachiever or you're an underachiever, whether you're an athlete or a performing arts student, there's something in there for you, whether you're a participant in MCAS or you're ready to move on to post-secondary education or even to go out into the job world, there's something in Wilmington for you. And I think just to additionally comment on that the town manager, the Board of Selectmen, everyone has a vested interest in seeing that the budget for education stays whole, moves forward, and that we're a futuristic school. So you can't say enough about this, and I did make a comment one time when I first got elected to a parent, and she corrected me, and I understood. She said, I said, there is a business component with managing a multi-million-dollar budget for a school district, and she said, please don't ever refer to my education of my children as a business. But the fact is that behind the scenes, the dollars and how we make everybody have a job and everybody have a seat to sit at, it does have a business component to it with state regulations, with funding, with grants, with money being cut. And it's very difficult for a superintendent, anyone in a leadership role, and even in the classroom, to be able to provide 100% of services and then to take the emotional component as to how it translates on a one-to-one ratio to every household in this town. Because everyone thinks that their situation is the most important. It's a very, very delicate balance. And the fact is that money makes the world go round. We all would love to put carte blanche out there to everyone, and the fact that we were able to do that in this current state of affairs, I'm speechless. There is no one statement that could state the fact that this community and this superintendent is able to provide the level of services and education to the town that we are in 2010.
Thank you. Dr. Quick.
She definitely, Mrs. Benton definitely, especially given the economy that we have now, has exceeded the standards for financial and business operations. It's a group effort, but she, providing the school committee the budget to approve, if you don't have that type of background, it can be difficult. She makes it easy, she makes it understandable, and she makes it a no-brainer. So we can look at it and go, dun, dun, A, B, C, D, yes, no. It makes it very succinct, the information that she gives us. And again, basically the same thing what you said. She has done an excellent job in taking little and making a lot of it.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Duffy.
I would say under finance and business operations that the superintendent exceeds this expectation. Along with her staff, the budget process has been refined over the number of years, certainly to make it more efficient, certainly to make it more understandable. It is a streamlined process, I think, both for the principals as well as for the school committee. I think that the priorities have always been set quite clearly. What the school committee believes are important to the students and parents of Wilmington has been stated in the strategic plan, has been listened to by the administration, and clearly comes forward in the budget process and the work through the budget process that we have been able to stay within our budget every year this year on a very tight rope. Is a credit, and I have to say that she exceeds that expectation.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins.
I also agree that the superintendent exceeds expectations for financial and business operations. There's not much left to say about that. The budget process is seamless. I'm not an accountant by any stretch of the imagination, but it's easy for me to understand. Just because of the way it's presented, the help through Mr. Ruggiero, and just all the iterations I know you go through before you even bring it to us is much appreciated. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marchese.
I'm going to start my statement first with the disclaimer. Mrs. Benton, I think you've done a great job with the budget. However, we know that Mr. Ruggiero is your backbone, and he's done a great job supporting you, but we know that you're the one up at the top saying, no, Paul, you got to take away, you got to do this,
He
you got to
deserves the credit.
and you got to make it work.
He follows everything I ask of him.
It's been phenomenal. It's been absolutely phenomenal. The relationship the two of you have professionally, it's worked out quite well for us. When you first came to us with the first budget presentation, I remember the numbers in the 4s or the 5s, and you had asked us, and we kind of looked at you with an eye and said, well, we think you can sharpen your pen a little bit there and come back with some better numbers. And you did. And you came back with a better number, and you actually added some services, and you didn't cut anything. So to me, that was very impressive. And so our school systems are growing, and in this tight economy, we're holding the line, and we're doing what's best for the children, but also with the mindset that, things are tough out there, so you do acknowledge that, and I thank you for all your great work, so thank you.
Okay. And, of course, I agree with everything. I'll just add that the superintendent's relationship with the town manager is obviously based on common concern and mutual respect, and that's made a huge difference. That definitely makes it easier for everybody. But untold hours are given to this process. Joanne generates numerous reports, and I loved how Judy phrased them as custom presentations. I couldn't think of the way to phrase them. That is exactly what it is. It's the same information, but the Finance Committee got a little different twist. Our first presentation, a little different twist. Anyone in town who does not know about the school budget has not been watching TV or watching our movies. You had numerous times when it was presented in public on the TV for us. And I also added that Joanne's work is definitely enhanced by the business manager whom she hired, and we're really pleased with your work, Paul, and we really appreciate it. And I think part of the success that someone else alluded to earlier is that Joanne's able to work totally on her own, but she works really great with other people. And so that makes a huge difference. And her presentation to the Finance Committee was so well received this year. Her communication skills to other people involved in the process are really, really top-notch. So that's excellent. Thank you. Now, E. Dr. Quick is going to be E. Personnel management. The superintendent is, this is kind of fun now, isn't this?
Not as bad as I thought.
Just wait, we're not done yet.
I know.
Two left, but we're zipping along here. The superintendent is responsible either directly or indirectly for the hiring of all school personnel. Personnel decisions should be approached in a non-discriminatory and impartial manner. It is the superintendent's responsibility to foster an environment conducive to good teaching. The superintendent should be alert to issues which affect staff morale, should be actively concerned with a meaningful staff evaluation program, and should provide a balanced staff development program. The school committee should be kept informed in appropriate matters of collective bargaining, performance standards, professional development, and grievances. Dr. Quick.
Okay. As far as, I believe Mrs. Benton meets the standards for personnel management. As far as the very first piece goes, the personnel decision should be approached in a non-discriminatory and impartial manner. That one's not as upfront as all these other issues are, so I have a little bit more difficulty discussing it just because it's not always in front of our faces. Okay, here's the budget, here's this. We hired Mrs. Benton to do this job, and but as a business owner myself, there are always kinks when it comes to personnel. But luckily for us, I believe that she does things smoothly, impartially, and she does what she can to make things run smoothly to increase the education for the children and make things run as smoothly as possible. I do definitely agree with she fosters an environment conducive to good teaching. She is always alert to issues which affect the staff morale. She actively provides a balanced staff development program. She definitely keeps us informed in appropriate matters of collective bargaining, performance standards, professional development, and grievances. So everything I feel is she meets those standards.
Thank you. Mrs. Duffy.
Under personnel management, I believe the superintendent meets these standards. I think that collective bargaining is always challenging, but she's willing to see each of those through. And she's been a professional throughout all of those tasks. I think that she has also, I think number one for me under this item would have been the resolution of any personnel issues. We're not directly involved with them, but we've had a limited, limited number come to the school committee level, and I don't think we even had any this year that came to school committee level. When I can think of my 12 years, that we've had some years with multiple issues have to be resolved at school committee level. So I have to say that for me, most of the personnel issues are being resolved at either the principals or the superintendent's level, which means that there's a good working relationship for personnel. And that's the way I have to take a look at that, and I think this standard is met.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins?
First, I believe that the superintendent meets this expectation. This is one question that I think it's my 5th year doing this, 5 or 6? 5? 4? 5? It's my 5th year. It's been a while.
No, it's okay.
I've always hated this question because of, Mrs. Benton touched on it a little bit. It's a little bit unfair to personnel management. How do we know what's happening aside from, well, we haven't seen any grievances this year? We haven't. I don't remember. I see, again, going back to the budget here, debates and the principals are happy to get less money. Where else can you get that? So I don't know how it's done, but so I would say that's great. I always feel informed. There hasn't been any issues I can think of in this standard that have snuck up on me that we just didn't know about. But I also feel it's one of those questions that I feel could also be a little bit unfair as well to the superintendent, because she might be completely exceeding this expectation, but we just really don't see it. So I see it as a bit of an unfair one, but definitely meets any expectations. I guess that's about it. I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Marchese?
I would have to agree with Mr. Higgins that I believe the superintendent meets or exceeds the standard, but because a lot of things happen a lot behind the scenes that aren't brought to our attention, and I see that as a good thing, as a positive thing, that they're not coming up to our level because she is managing the personnel and that's her job. So therefore, she's, again, meeting or exceeding it. And just by the fact that we were able to negotiate a 2-year contract with teachers this year with a 0 and 2 1/4 next year just shows that the teachers want to stay in Wilmington, and they accepted that because this is a good program and we have good leadership, and Mrs. Benton is managing her team appropriately. And just through that, I think, again, she meets and exceeds it. So, again, I know there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and that's what I don't want to hear about because we shouldn't. And again, I think she's doing a great job. So.
Thank you. Ms. O'Connell?
I think everyone did a great job speaking about this. I think the superintendent certainly meets the standard. I have to agree with Steve, and even to some of the other points, we don't see, a lot of this. I mean, with ed reform, with the way things are, our responsibility is to hire and be responsible for the superintendent's employment. And then everything from there is giving that person who you have hired the complete autonomy and power, if you will, to make decisions that cascade on down through the organization. And I can appreciate what people go through to make a hiring decision. I think that Wilmington Public Schools has done a great job in ensuring that the level of certification in the respective discipline is at an all-time high, that we have some of the most gifted and talented professionals out there in our classrooms teaching our students. I think that's very, very key. I think the staff morale, I've been in situations publicly where people don't know that they don't even know my name, never mind of what I might do, and they're talking about the school, and I've never heard a single public comment to the detriment of the superintendent, quite frankly. And in terms of the staff evaluation during the last negotiation process, Superintendent Benton was very passionate about making sure that the evaluation piece was in there, which is actually for the betterment of the teacher. So it's really about making sure that he or she has what they need in their professional career to be successful. And I look at that as a retention model with the public school system. So in terms of staff development, I can tell you, having been a former teacher, and I say that because it's not about me, but you speak from your own personal experience, not every school has the professional development that we have, and it's been a big pillar of our educational system here at Wilmington that has never been on the table to be taken away, and other school systems don't have it. So I think in terms of collective bargaining, very difficult to talk about money, but I give the superintendent a lot of credit. It's not just one contract to negotiate, it's multiple, and you have to essentially keep all the balls in the air and try and keep everybody happy. And it's certainly, she doesn't do it alone. She has Paul, she has Peter, she has the committee, but there's a lot that goes into personnel management that, we really couldn't encapsulate in one meeting, but I think that certainly meets and exceeds. You're going to have a corner case, you're going to have a complaint here or there, but I think overall, things are going in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you. I kind of took this a little more widely because I wasn't sure exactly. Like Mr. Higgins said, this is the hardest one to evaluate. But I wanted to add the yearly recognition of the newly hired staff through the September introduction at the school committee meetings. I've never heard of that in another school system. Maybe it is out there somewhere, but I don't know where it is. And it's so exciting for us, the whole town, to be able to meet the new staff that we're going to have and get a little background information on them. The recognition at the school committee level of our award-winning staff that we've had this year. Regular updates at the school committee during executive session, of course, regarding contract negotiations, so we're always kept up to date on where they stand. The staff development program that's become Wilmington University, where the staff teaches their peers, that is so unique and excellent. The new teacher orientation in August, the annual school readiness meeting that the superintendent holds, and I love this. Her Leadership Institute, as well as the new teachers, she has her administrative staff have a Leadership Institute, and they start off with a book, and they had given a book to read, and they work around that book for the Institute, and that book is based on the theme from the, back again to the strategic plan. Everything, it's like a puzzle, and it all is working so well with her leadership. And this year, the administrators were going to engage, challenge, and inspire. And I'd like to say that I find that that's what Mrs. Benton does for me. She engages me, she challenges me, and she inspires me. And the last thing on this, for staff morale, notes from the whiteboard. Not only does she start out with something brand new in education when she gives these notes, but I love this at the back. Always in the notes we have at the end, this is called All in the Family, and there's information on teachers who have gotten married, gotten engaged, had babies, had grandchildren, and it humanizes the school system, and it's really so unique, and I think that's very special too. So I wanted to get that in there, that this is another thing that she does every month?
Every other week.
Every other, here I'm thinking it's every month, sorry, every other week. This 4-page, and
So you're even more informed than you thought you were.
I am. I read them all. I love them every other week. Wow. Thank you. And our last item is, we're at the end, communications and public relations. Okay. Public awareness is the cornerstone for support of education in our community. The superintendent should ensure that staff, students, parents, and the community are kept informed of the mission and the accomplishments of the school system. A strong, positive posture is needed in building public support for the system. Mrs. Duffy.
Okay. For community relations and public relations, I think that the superintendent far exceeds this particular area of identification because there are multiple areas for this. I look over this year and there were, the response to the bomb threats was very active and involved within the community. The response to the school bullying incident that we had, there was information out to the community. There was informed programming that followed up. The Wildcat Project being proactive to keep our students safe and giving safe choices to both the parents, the entire community. The attendance of the superintendent at many school and community events is always a plus, and good visibility for the school system. We appreciate that. The connections to the entire community as far as her relationship with the police, the fire, the town manager. Parents, you have the Wilmington Educational Foundation, the Wilmington Technology Task Force, you have the District Attorney's Office, you have multiple agencies that the superintendent keeps informed, and also lets them know about our community, checks in with them about how our community is doing. You mentioned already the newsletter that comes out a couple of times a month. That's another and Mr. McGinn, who does a curriculum update on WCTV every once in a while to let the community know. So I have to say that this particular area has grown in great strides over the number of years I've been here, and this is one area that I definitely see there has exceeded, especially in the proactive area. We're not just responding to things, we're trying to get information out before things happen, and I think that that's very, very important and very helpful to build community morale. So I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins?
I would have to agree. I would say definitely exceeds expectations. It's just through all the aggressiveness with handling any situation that does come up. Very proactive. You know, the bullying, huge, and just to know that this town is already leaps and bounds ahead of so many communities. You know, even the state's trying to come up with some legislation that we've already been practicing here in town for a few years. So, you know, I could echo everything that Mrs. Duffy said, but I don't want to waste any more time. So just to say, definitely exceeds expectations.
Thank you. Mr. Marchese?
Mrs. Benton, how much money did we raise for Haiti? $12,000–$13,000?
Almost $13,000.
Nice. And that is completely and totally contributed to you. I mean, you're the one who spearheaded that. You got the information out to the kids and to the parents. You had the Haiti National Day where the kids came in, you know, dressed in the colors of Haiti, you know, and that showed real community support and great public relations and getting that out there as quickly as you did and raising the money. I mean, we could talk all night, like Mr. Higgins said and Mrs. Duffy, about all the relationship you have with the town manager and all the other associations out there. But you know, what you did in a matter of 2 or 3 days and raising that kind of money for the people in Haiti was just absolutely phenomenal. If you want to talk about community relations, that was just tremendous. So,
Thank you, Ms. Marchese. Ms. O'Connell?
I think everyone has done just a phenomenal job in stating that the superintendent exceeds this. You know, just from the notices that go home to the, you know, notes from the whiteboard. I think the website in and of itself with the webmaster piece and just making sure I was out there today. The content is so rich out there and just so detailed. Last night I was fortunate to join everyone for the Wildcat Project, and I immediately had a personalized survey request sent to me today wanting to know what my opinion is. So they've immediately reached out to the public to get, you know, less than 24-hour response time from the public to say, this was out there regardless of whether it was mandatory. What is the public perception of how this event went? And some of the questions were very detailed. You had the ability to make comments. You didn't have to put your name on it. Not that I had any issue putting my name on it. I did identify myself. You know, just to be able to give that real-time feedback. And I think, you know, a lot of times you can put things out there, but you don't really want to hear a lot back because you don't know if the feedback's going to be positive or negative. And I like the fact that with any major endeavors that we bring, you know, through the system, that a survey component is always there. The Wilmington Educational Foundation just does phenomenal things, whether it's through WEF or through local businesses. The Textron capital improvement with the, you know, furniture that Paul and Joanne went through recently, that's unbelievable. I just see a lot of synergy among a lot of things to be able to bring community awareness, and I see the superintendent and the staff as a whole trying to take, whether it's a veterans situation and bring it into the classroom, or Relay for Life and bringing it into the school system, or a Walk for WEF situation. You have fitness, you have community, you have, you know, charity with cancer, you have veterans. I mean, the list just goes on. Went on the Middlesex County Sheriff's Office today. School's been through there, not to see what it's like to make destructive decisions, but actually to go in there and see if you want to have a career in law enforcement. So probably not what the public was expecting that I was going to say, was that it was about what happens if you make a destructive decision. It was, would you potentially want to be in the law enforcement arena? So that's different than what's been done in the past. Usually, you pick the CHINS program, or you go through something, and it's, so I like the fact that there can be a positive or a negative spin to any given environment, and the student has a choice. You can either work there, or you can live there. It's kind of one of those things where, in actuality. So the school building is key. Chamber of Commerce, I've been at many instances where Joanna's been there, and even Decker has been there. So it just goes on and on with the WCTV, Town Crier, the pause writing with the students, and just on and on, just exceeds expectations. So thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Quick?
One of the things I wanted to really bring across was that as part of keeping the community informed, and she is a presence. She's always there. She is at everything. When I was in school, I probably only remember seeing my superintendent at my graduation. I'm sure he was there for other things too, but she is always, I went, if I'm at my daughter's little singing concert, she's there. The Walk for West, she came in that Wildcat costume, and she stole the show. She's always the presence of the school system, and I think just to it reiterates what everybody's saying, but that's exactly what I feel, that she embodies that presence. She's always there. She always keeps things fresh in people's minds. The education, being on the Education Foundation Board, we rely on her for information as to where should we be doing this, and she leads us in those directions, always with education in mind, and she sets by example. So she definitely exceeds that in communications and public relations.
And I think for me, the one event that really told it all was when she got a team together for the Cancer Relay for Life and stayed up all night out in the football field with the people of this town. That, to me, that was so far above and beyond what she needed to do. The money that she raised, the group that she had with her, they were having a great time. Good food at that tent. But to me, that just says it all about our superintendent, her humanity, her working for people individually. I think we've given so many examples of this, and anyone who knows our superintendent in the community knows that everything we've said tonight has been true, is really right spot on. What I'd like to ask is, does anyone have any, want to say any, summarizing comments, or we've done so many things? Okay, and the last thing I'd like to say is that if we'd like to, and I think I see that there's a possibility of this, that if we wanted to give an A+ to the superintendent, not to embarrass her, but you know what? Sometimes you like to summarize it up in one little thing, and would anybody like to give a suggestion of? I would like to suggest, because I really feel strongly that everything we've said tonight points to an A+ superintendent, and I like to think that she gets recognized for the work that she does in here at 6:30 in the morning. You in at 6:30 every day? 6:30 every day, no matter how late. She was here last night till after 9. So no matter how late she stays at night, no matter how many activities she goes to, in here at 6:30 in the morning, rarely takes a day off. In fact, it's one of the things we kind of have a discussion about. I wish you'd take a few more days off, but she really is so connected to us, our community, that I'd like to offer that Joanne is an A+ superintendent.
And she deserves a shiny red apple.
Mrs. Duffy.
I would support an A+ superintendent. We're very fortunate when you look around the surrounding communities, what they're struggling with and how professional or unprofessional some superintendents are handling their situations, and that we are fortunate to have a superintendent that is handling her situation well, that is promoting the community well, and that in every one of these standards it was meets, exceeds, meets and far exceeds with multiple examples. And I think that is I mean, that's an A+ in my rank book. I can't.
Great, thank you. We all agree?
Thank you
We give
all.
you that gift. Okay, and you give us a gift every day.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Okey-doke, I think our last is, thank you, everybody. Really, that was new for us, and it was very, very well done. Going back to business, it's like, new business would be the 2010-2011 school calendar.
I
Mrs.
included at your place this evening an updated 2010-2011 draft of the school calendar, which includes the early dismissal curriculum improvement days, the elementary parent conference, middle school parent conferences, the kindergarten start date, the early childhood parent conferences, and the high school parent conferences. If you note, recommending that the full day of professional development be Election Day, November 2nd, which I do this in conjunction with the town clerk's office to make it easier for the voters on that day, and it works out well for us. So this will come back to you at the next meeting for a vote. I also included in your agenda a 2011-2012 calendar. Parents like to have that information so that they can make plans. So I will bring them back at the next meeting. If you have any questions or recommendations, let me know.
Great, thank you. What are you doing? Okay, delegations. Okay. Board members' questions and comments. Mrs. Duffy.
I just would like to say thank you to all of the staff, Mr. Tracy and Doreen Crow, and all those involved with the fabulous program that was held last evening, pre-prom. I really did not know what to expect and how it was going to be received, and I thought that it was very interesting and very quiet. And I hope that the students listened and picked something up from that, as well as the parents. Spring sports are underway. That's very exciting. I thank you, Mr. Ruggiero, about the tennis update, about where the tennis teams will be playing, which is nice that the town has, another instance where the town has worked with the school department on Textron courts, and that's very helpful. Also, the middle school theater performances, I think this weekend and next weekend, as well as the junior prom on Friday. So, I wish them good luck with their performance, and a nice, safe, and healthy prom for the juniors and their guests that attend. That's all this evening. One last thing.
Sure.
As I look to my last meeting, next time, all I want to do is make sure that my pass is available. I know a couple of people have left without their pass. I don't want to leave without my
Not gonna leave
pass.
without your
All
pass.
right, make sure I have my
Sure, yes,
pass. I'm being proactive.
You get one too.
Yeah, we get our
Lifetime
lifetime
Just remind
pass
me to
to get
bring-
into, a basketball or an event.
events.
Sports events.
events.
Actually, all events, yeah.
Yeah, lifetime.
For me, right?
If it's free, it's for me. I like that. That's a great slogan. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes, you'll be all set.
Added to my bottom line, that's good.
Mr. Higgins.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, Mr. Marchese.
I'm stunned.
Sorry, buddy.
I'm stunned.
I'm a little tired.
Yeah, all right, I'll give it to you. All right, I promise I'm going to make this quick, so that way everybody can flip the channel and watch the boys over at the Celtics game. Congratulations to the high school boys on being honored tonight. Enjoy the game. Please be careful out there, though. Again, what Mrs. Duffy had said, the Wildcat program last night, the pre-prom meeting was absolutely phenomenal. And again, I really hope the juniors and seniors took away something really important from that. And I hope the juniors are careful this weekend. I hope you have a great time at the prom. But just remember, you got to come home the next day. So, and with that, I think it's been a great night, and I'm done. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell.
I think everyone pretty much covered it. I do have to say about the Wildcat project, just how phenomenal that was. I would have to say, we all come into these roles in the school committee, and, we're all one person trying to make a difference or volunteer or make things for the better, but that's probably been one area that I've been particularly passionate about or just concerned about, it's a big problem. It's a big, big problem, and I think that last night was just such a shining example of how the town came together to, it's already been started, and it's going to continue on, and that was just huge. I had talked to a detective after I left last night, and he's from Belmont, and I said what we did, and he said, that's fantastic. Not every community is doing that. He's like, I'm on a task force. I've been on a task force. I'm in my 35th year, and I wish more schools would rise above and make it mandatory to say, you want this privilege, you need to do this. And, it's 2.5 hours of your life to listen to what might make the difference for one or two people, or hopefully many. And you have to stand up and set your standard as a school environment, just what you will or will not accept for student behavior. So I applaud everyone involved that took a stance on that. Prom is huge. For us, it didn't happen at prom, but my year, we did have, a casualty. It wasn't prom related, but it was excessive speed, and it impacted junior and senior year in the same time period. And, I see these people today, and they are not the same people as a result of it. They're just not. And my heart goes out to Kara Filler. She was an amazing public speaker, and to know, to sit there, she was very composed about her own personal experience, and she was, not to say that she's come to terms with it, I don't even know her, but the fact that she got very emotional about the fact that of a student she had just come in contact that had lost his girlfriend who he had dated. He's a senior, and he had dated his girlfriend from her freshman year, and she said, I go to all these places, and I never know if I ever make an impact on anybody. And it wasn't until this big, strong, rugged man was completely reduced to tears, and he had a memory bracelet. You see all the big Live Strong, all these bracelets, it's a big phenomenon. He took that off, and he gave it to her, and she said she's never taken it off, and she got really, really choked up, and it's like, it can happen to any one of us, and you never think of it, and it just was so moving. And then, Eric Tracy got up and spoke, and he was reduced to tears in front of the entire audience of 800 people, and so, it's real business. It's real. It changes lives, and I can't express how genuine and sincere. And, state rep was there, you had school personnel, you had all of us there. Everybody really wants to see people do well and make good decisions. And, sometimes it's a 50% flip of the coin. You say yes to something or you say no, can make a life or death choice. So enough said, but I walked out of there a different person than what I was when I walked in. I didn't expect to come away with what I did. So I hope to see it happen again and again and again, because we need it. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Quigg?
Just two things. Juniors, have a wonderful time Friday night, and remember that you can be mature and have a wonderful time. And I also heard that they're very excited with the move to the Textron Court, so that's a wonderful move for them. So. And that's it for this evening for me.
Excellent. The only other, I too was there last night, and I too came out a different person. It was unbelievably moving. The other thing, though, I wanted to mention was the cyberbullying program last week at the middle school with 150 parents in attendance. Excuse me, sorry. That was really moving, and I think the parents got it. And that's what's really important. And after that program, someone came up with a great idea that I don't think was mentioned at the program, and that was, your kids won't be on their instruments, whatever they may be, Facebook or on their phones or whatever, if they all stay in the kitchen overnight and they don't go into the bedroom with them when they go in to go to sleep. That would be one way of solving some of the problems. We've had a really interesting couple of weeks. We really have.
And accreditation.
Oh, and excuse me, accreditation. Congratulations to the high school. The feedback has been so positive, and so excellent. We really think that things went very well. And would you, Mrs. Benton, just explain a little about the feedback about the students?
Traditionally, the chair of the committee meets with the staff on the last day and just talks, gives us a taste in a couple of commendations and recommendations. And it was phenomenal to sit there and hear a visitor who had just spent 4 days with us say that the entire team clearly was leaving Wilmington with the belief that everybody at Wilmington High School truly cares about every single student. And I couldn't have been more proud than I was to hear that that's what they came away from. And huge kudos to Eric Tracy and to the staff by the visiting team. That came through. Our students are our most precious commodity, and not only are they our future, but clearly the accreditation team saw that they used the example of enjoying the life skills students, how the life skills students are respected and appreciated and included at the high school. So kudos to the high school staff. It was quite a week.
Yeah.
Quite a week. Murphy's Law, torrential rain on Sunday. Monday, thankfully, he's all right, but a crossing guard collapsing in front of the high school. And Tuesday, fortunately, everyone was fine, but we had a bus accident. And Wednesday, we had a tragedy. We lost a parent of a high school and middle school student, but everybody moved on and did their jobs, and the accreditation committee was quite impressed. So thank you to all. Look forward to the report.
That will be probably next September or so,
Yes,
right?
they're
It's gonna be a
understaffed,
while.
so unfortunately, it's not going to be for 4 to 5 months, they said.
There'll be something to look forward to the beginning of next year, though. Okay, other reports? No. Correspondence? Nothing. Future meeting dates and agenda items, April 14th will be our goodbye meeting, and April 24th will be the next meeting?
28th.
28th. April 28th. Okay. Town meeting is May 1st. Town election is April 24th. Okay, that'll be great. Thank you, everybody. Really good night. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Dr. Quick?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Mr. Marchese. All those in favor? Just in time to watch.
Wow.
You think it's on?
What time is it, Paul?